What up, what up? It's Garage Gym Homie. Today I'm talking to you about why I stopped seeing a therapist, why I stopped going to therapy. Is it worth it? Before we get into this, please click the subscribe button. I got content coming out all the dang time for you. So click subscribe and let's get into this. So I just want to, I always make videos letting you find folks, know where I came from, and what I'm about, man, like the real Garage Gym Homie. So anyway, years ago, a few years back, into sobriety, years into sobriety, I'm coming up next month on 9 years sober. So this had to be, man, this had to be 5 years into sobriety, something like that. I was being kind of consumed with some problems I was having. I was having some sexual problems, and I've talked to you about it in another video. And I think what I was realizing, I was talking to my AA sponsor about it, and I dealt with a lot of trauma through my drug use. And I've talked about, I'm not going to go into detail right now. You can look at my video I did about sex and bodybuilding and all that, and masturbation, and I made a video about it, going into detail about spirituality and sex and stuff. And I dated one of the I dated the most famous porn star in the world at the time, and dated her for 2 years in LA, and it was I assume it was traumatic for me, and it caused sexual problems down the road. It caused me to have an unhealthy sexual mindset. Let's say that. I had an unhealthy sexual mindset. I was in the porn industry for like 6 years out there in LA. So it took a toll on my mentality about sex and relationships, and it affected me deeply. And so I talked to my sponsor about it, and he decided that, and I decided that I probably, I'm not saying I definitely, probably have PTSD from that relationship, from things that I've been through, whether it's prison, jail, living on the streets, things I probably had some kind of PTSD. And so he said that I should see a therapist. So I went, I sought out a therapist, and man, I started seeing this guy, and it was amazing. I mean, I have seen therapists for years, many years of my life prior to being sober. When I first got sober, since I was 6 years old, when my parents were getting divorced, they sent me to a therapist. All growing up through the way I was getting in trouble, I've seen many psychiatrists, psychologists, MSWs or whatever, master, so, therapists, whatever. And this was the first time where therapy actually felt therapeutic, if that makes sense. So I met this guy, and I started, I told him, he's like, why you here? I was like, well, I've had a lot of stuff in my past. I kind of want to, look at some of the trauma I've faced that's affecting me today, whether it's sexually or in other ways. And he's like, listen, we can dig up that stuff, but we could talk about trauma and all the negative stuff, but he goes, more likely what we can do is find the gold in that stuff. So I was like, well, that sounds cool. Like this guy felt like I felt him, I felt him, like he felt like it felt right being there with him. Like it actually felt therapy, seeing a therapist felt therapeutic for the first time in my life. Let's put it that way. And he said some cool things. He said therapy is not for people who need it. It's effective for people who want it. The worst kind of therapy you could do is just throw someone in a padded room and, force them into therapy or whatever. So that kind of stuck with me. So he helped me see I learned a lot about myself in there. I learned a lot about myself. And what was happening is he was charging me, he told me he took my insurance, and he was charging me like, he would tell me like, yeah, I'll take your insurance, and then like I charge $160 an hour or whatever it is, and my insurance was covering like $100 or $90, $90, and he was making me pay him cash for the excess, you know, for the whatever over, because he charged $150, my insurance would pay the $90, and you know, then I would have to pay him the difference because to meet his $150 or $160 or whatever. So I had to pay him $70 cash each time or whatever and give him a. So I called the insurance company because I'm paying like the full thing because I hadn't met my deductible yet. So I'm kind of trying to figure out how much I have to pay to meet my deductible. And whatever, so I've seen this guy now like 7 times, let's say. I'd only seen him like 7 times. And every time, man, I just felt like it was right. You know, I felt like it was right. And I was built, like I loved the guy. Like I felt like this is a guy I love. Like I have a relation, like I could feel like this was a dude who, I almost want to use the word spiritual, but it was different. He was like an old school kind of therapist, that like an old California dude who was open to different modalities of therapy, whether it was body work, not just your regular sit there and talk, you know, he had different methods that aren't common. And it was an incredible 7 sessions, let's say 7 or 8 sessions, let's put it that way. So he's like, I'm gonna start, if you don't mind, to help you meet your deductible, I'm going to file with your insurance that you're doing more sessions, you know, to help them meet your deductible. So he's like, I'm gonna help you, and you know, screw insurance companies, da da da. So I'm talking to the insurance company, you know, trying to find out the numbers to meet my deductible. And I'm telling them about what the agreement we have with, you know, is. And they're like, wait, he's doing what? I'm like, yeah, he charges me, you know, he says he charges $160 an hour or whatever. You know, you guys are paying $90 and I have to pay him the difference in cash. The woman on the phone with Blue Cross was like, he can't do that. He has an agreement with us that if he accepts your insurance, he's going to accept what we pay him out, which for him is $90 an hour. He can't charge you the extra in cash. I was like, really? I was like, he can't do that? They're like, no, he has an agreement with the insurance company that if he accepts your insurance, he cannot be charging you on the side cash. That is not, it's not ethical, it's not legal, you can't do that. And then I realized this guy was billing extra to the insurance company. Who was keeping that money? He was. So this guy was scamming the insurance. He was double dipping, man. He was scamming the insurance company, writing sessions that didn't exist to help me meet my deductible, yet they were paying him $90 for each time he did that. Plus, he told me he took my insurance and was still charging me extra cash, which violates his agreement with them. So this guy, I got resentful. I was upset. I was heartbroken, man. I was heartbroken because I knew deep down in my heart what I had to do. I knew that I couldn't, excuse me, I knew that I couldn't. First of all, I called my sponsor. First of all, I prayed. That's number one. I said, God, please remove my fear. Please remove my resentment. Please direct my attention to what you would have me be. Prayed from my heart. I called my sponsor. I told him the situation because I had been telling him up till then, you know, therapy's been amazing. It's great. We hadn't even talked about the issues I came there to talk about with the sexual stuff or any of that yet. He goes, you can't see this guy anymore. He's like, that's like me sponsoring you, but I'm drinking and I'm still sponsoring you. You can't be a therapist and live your life one way and let your clients know that you're living your life as a scammer and this and that,
and expect, you know, that's not therapeutic. You can't do that. It's wrong. So I couldn't see him anymore. I called him and I said, I'm not going to see you anymore. I'm done seeing you. And he knew. He didn't ask why. He knew that I left him a message because I couldn't get a hold of him. I told him I was done seeing him. I got a check in the mail from him for like $500 about a week later. He knew why I stopped seeing him deep down. He knew I knew he was scamming the insurance company, and he kept a bunch of money that, you know, that they had paid him out for sessions he wrote that were not legit to help me meet my deductible. He sent me $500. So there's more to this. I'm going to get into it. So I threw myself. I had a choice. I was going to either seek out more therapy or I was going to let it go, from someone else, I mean. And I felt so crushed because I was like, man, there is nobody in the world who's going to match how good of a therapist this guy is, despite the crookedness of him, which I would never recommend. It's just no matter how good of a therapist he seemed to be in that room when we were together, the energy that we had there, and how he's not a good therapist. You can't be a good therapist and scam the insurance companies at the same time and let the people, your patients, your clients know what you're up to and expect that it's gonna not be like tarnished or tainted. It just doesn't work like that. At least for me, I don't live my life like that. He justified it, saying, "Oh, screw the insurance company, they're crooked." I heard him. I have disdain for insurance companies, and that's like me saying, "Well, I screw Hollywood, so I'm going to watch a bootleg movie." No, there's no such thing as little lies anymore in sobriety. I don't watch bootleg movies. I'd rather pay the $10 and buy the service for a month, or I'd rather do it right. I'm not a big movie TV guy anyway. I think it's mostly toxic. It's just an example. I don't do little things that are lies anymore and justify them. And he did that. And he's not where I'm at spiritually. And that's okay. That's his journey. My inventory is that I couldn't let it go on. So, I didn't seek out more therapy after that because I was kind of discouraged. I was kind of like, there's no way I'm going to meet somebody. I don't know this for a fact. I could have met somebody even better. I was like, there's no way I'm going to meet somebody better as far as like our sessions go and stuff. So I was like, I'm going to throw my heart and soul into my spirituality. And the point is this. I threw my heart and soul into every day I started praying for God to give me a healthy sexual mindset. I asked him to remove to give me a healthy sexual mindset, to be the person that he wants me to be and who I am to the core. And I prayed every day for that, for a healthy sexual mindset. And those thoughts that I was having, that craziness in my head, the trauma, the stuff that was there that I thought therapy had to heal, God removed it from me. I haven't had a thought or feeling to do that. I gave up masturbation. I gave up watching porn. It was too close to home for me. My spirituality was not in order. This whole time I thought I needed therapy to dig down in that stuff and look at my childhood or look at my relationships with women or whatever the heck. My spirituality wasn't in order. All the therapy in the world wasn't going to do for me what prayer and meditation and the 12-step program and the big book did for me. Now, I'm not saying therapy can't be useful. That's not the point that I'm saying here. I think therapy can be a beautiful thing for people, including myself probably. I'm sure I could do some self-knowledge, do some digging. There's probably some beautiful modalities or forms of therapy or different techniques that are very useful. But in my experience, none of it's going to do a dang thing
unless my spirituality is in order, and it wasn't. And I was looking for other ways to get around. My relationship with God wasn't right. And I was tapping into things that were toxic for me, fantasizing about getting high and banging the, you know, I don't even want to talk about it, but where I allowed my head to go and the thoughts I entertained, and watching porn as if I was like getting high, and you know, that's not who I am anymore. I can't just turn on freaking Moms Teaching Teens or Couples Bang the Babysitter and think that I'm just gonna, you know, act like I did now, like I did then, just without the drugs. It's not who I am to the core. I know what goes behind scenes in porn and the women and the kind of people. That's not who I am anymore. That's toxic, and I don't support it. So I'm not going to act that way. But porn's just an example, man. And that sexual stuff. Anything in my life that any problem that I've come to since sobriety, my relationship with God has always taken care of it. Anything in my head that's been a problem, let's put it that way. There's medical stuff, sure. I had problems. God has led me to doctors who had to, you know, help me, whether it was like testosterone or whatever it is. I'm not saying that just praying and taking no action is what you do. Of course we have to take action. Prayer without works is dead. That's what it says in the AA literature. We have to pray and then move forward. It was like when God parted the Red Sea for Moses, and Moses just stood there and he's praying, and he said, well, God, what should I do now? And God said, walk. I already parted it for you. You don't got to keep praying now. It's time to walk. That's like prayer and action. They go together. You got to take action too. You can't just pray and do nothing. And you got to meditate. You got to listen. So what I've learned from this experience is that all the answers from therapy and stuff that I was seeking, I already had within me. I didn't need a therapist to tell me those things. I needed to listen. I needed to pray and listen and move forward. And that's been the same thing with every single issue that's come up since I've been sober in sobriety. So don't take this the wrong way and me saying therapy is no good. I think therapy is great. It can be beautiful if you have your ducks in a row. So I'm not ready to move forward and see another therapist. I'm not seeking therapy in my life today. My life is beautiful, man. And I'm not saying therapy couldn't help that, but everything that comes up, man, God has been the answer for me. And in growing and enlarging my spirituality has been everything. And it's taken care of everything for me. So that's what I got, man. So if you don't have a spiritual practice, this is a great time to start. You know, start praying for others. Start thinking about how you can be helpful to people. That's the best thing that's helped me with anything in sobriety, was throwing myself more. The big book says the more sexual problems we have, the more we have to throw ourselves into helping other people if sex is still an issue for us. That's my purpose, to be a light to the world, be a maximum service to God and my fellows. So that's my experience with the last time I saw therapy. And then I even went back to that guy, and I about a year later, I thought to myself, man, I miss him. I want to see him again. I'd love to see him. Part of the therapeutic process for me may be to confront him and let him know how I felt about what he did so I could continue seeing him. I called him. I said, I would love to see you again. I said, but I got to be honest. When I found out what you did with the insurance stuff, I was resentful, and it hurt me, and I couldn't keep seeing you. So if you want to do it the right way and accept my insurance under the terms that you have an agreement with, I'd love to give this a shot. And he said, I appreciate you letting me know that. He goes, but this is just the way that I do it. And he had no interest. He wasn't coming off that extra 60 whatever dollars, because money's clearly a big thing for this guy. And that's okay. That's his journey, man. He's going to have to, that's him. You know, for me, I'd rather lose 60 bucks and be whole and do the right thing in my life so my soul's intact and I'm good with God, that wasn't his MO. You know, he wanted to continue to do this. So I knew it wasn't God's will for me to continue seeing this guy. But it did feel good to confront him, let him know for my God to remove my fear, so I didn't just have to leave him a message that, you know, a year before and, you know, hide, leave him, I'm not going to see you, and hide away. That's how I went about it. I was able to have God walk me through confronting him, so he knew how nobody's probably ever done that before. So he can think about that. I still love him, and I still think he's a good soul. I think we all got stuff we got to work through, and God bless him, and God bless all of you, man. That's what I got for you. Garage Gym Homie's always going to give it to you straight till the end of days. If you like this, man, subscribe to the channel. If you didn't like it, also subscribe to the channel. I'm out.